Welcome everyone. Great to see so many of you joining us. As Craig said, we were in Hanover last week, had lots of really interesting conversations, handed out lots of flyers for this event. So yeah, it'd be great to see in chat if you've joined us from Hanover last week. Um, so let me make sure the right window is focused. So who am I? So I'm Nick O'Leary. I'm the co-creator of Node-RED and the CTO co-founder here at FlowFuse. I'm the co-creator of Node-RED. So I've been working with Node-RED for well over 10 years now, and helping build out the open source project to where it finds itself today. And then, excuse me, and then FlowFuse. So FlowFuse is the company I started now just over 3 years ago now, looking at how we can build a platform to help companies who are adopting Node-RED already to really elevate what they're able to do. So for this session, we sort of build it as a bit of a general update. Really wanted to take this opportunity, knowing we might have some first-time joiners as well, give a bit of an oversight about what FlowFuse is all about. Cover a lot of the bases of what we're doing here at FlowFuse, and then also look at some of the new stuff we've been adding in recent times, but how it all builds together to really give you a platform that helps you work with Node-RED at scale and with all those sorts of features you care about when you're trying to build, when you're trying to use it within your organization. So it really all comes back down to Node-RED. I'm going to work on assumption that most of you have some familiarity with Node-RED already. But I'm just going to spend 2-3 minutes just explaining Node-RED for people who may have joined us from conversations last week who are less familiar. And certainly I see in the attendee list and in the chat already, good friends from the community, and it's great to see you guys joining. So Node-RED, it's a hugely popular open source tool for doing low code application creation. So giving you the tooling so that non-traditional developers are able to start building meaningful applications. I'm not going to read out the slides, as I say. I'm sure many of you are already very familiar with what Node-RED is all about, but it's really the popularity of Node-RED that brings us to where we are today. That even at like the Hanover event last week, huge industry event, many thousands of people, just the volume of people who know Node-RED, who recognize the logo, who come chat to us, and how many places Node-RED is just cropping up as becoming a tool that developers are bringing into their organizations. It's incredible, and it's so far removed from what I could have imagined we would have got to when we started playing around with the early ideas of what Node-RED was 10 years ago. So, but yeah, I think it is the power of what Node-RED can do, but it's just as much that the power of the community. We have a huge, vibrant user community in the Node-RED world. And these numbers are probably already vastly out of date, but really give you a sense. There's a lot of activity on the website, an incredibly engaged community in the forum. The number of just sheer downloads of Node-RED from npm, Docker, wherever it may be, blows me away. And the contributions people make to the community, really extending out what Node-RED can do by publishing nodes into the community. And I think we're at about 4,800. I think I saw last week. So getting close to that 5,000 mark. But that's testament to the community and just the popularity of Node-RED and just what we know it's able to be, what we know it can be turned to. And this is a screenshot from the node-red.org website, just showcase of some of the many, a sliver of the companies who are using Node-RED in one way or another or supporting the Node-RED community. It really goes across so many different industries and domains. There's, we keep finding use cases for Node-RED right across the board. Now, obviously, with the work we're doing at FlowFuse, we are more focused on sort of the industrial users, although what we're building at FlowFuse is just as useful for anyone who wants to be able to run Node-RED at scale. Yeah, to that point, lots some stock art of just what you will know. Node-RED is already widely used across a wide range, from home automation and individuals all the way through to industry and sort of enterprise professional usage. And it's really that's the point where FlowFuse can step in, where for those organizations that suddenly find themselves, I mean, I sort of describe it as a Node-RED problem. And their problem is they've got it and they want more of it, but the overhead of how you manage Node-RED at scale. Because Node-RED is awesome at what it does, and building those low-code applications wherever you need to be running it, whether it's in the cloud or at the edge. But when you start thinking about, okay, well, now actually I need to run 10 Node-RED instances across different locations, or maybe it's 100, maybe it's 1,000 Node-RED instances running on devices connected to hardware. The overhead of managing that is a real cost. And often we talk to customers who find themselves in this position that their engineers have brought Node-RED into their environment, and it's solving real problems. It's bringing real value to what they're doing, but they want more of it, and they need to do more of it with the flexibility Node-RED can provide. But then traditional IT steps in, and when you think about what software you can run within your organization, and there's lots of questions have to be answered about security, about distributed management of the runtimes, knowing who's changed what, all these sorts of questions that FlowFuse is the platform we're building that really helps our customers elevate how they use Node-RED, really focused in on allowing people to be successful with what they do with Node-RED, with the peace of mind and all the capabilities that the FlowFuse platform brings around the outside of Node-RED. So people have, a question we do get asked is, so is the FlowFuse version of Node-RED different to regular Node-RED? And by and large, no. It is the Node-RED you know and love. You can install the nodes you want to install. You can have custom nodes. It's the Node-RED experience you know. What FlowFuse is concerned about is how you manage that and how you can scale that out across many different instances. So when we think about what FlowFuse brings, it's elevating that Node-RED experience, thinking very much more going beyond the individual user to the team of users, and how can we improve collaboration between a team of developers working across one or many Node-RED environments? How can we make it easy and more streamlined to deliver Node-RED applications across an organization? Node-RED runs just as well in cloud-hosted environments as it does edge environments. But as soon as you've got Node-RED running on multiple devices, that's multiple endpoints you've potentially got to touch and deal with and manage. So how can we help users work with Node-RED at remote locations? And then also recognizing that as a piece of software, the FlowFuse, the platform itself, can be quite flexible in where customers want to run it, how they want to run it. So we can meet those needs as well. And then as a company, we can also then provide professional services around Node-RED to help support customers' use of FlowFuse. And this is a small section of what FlowFuse is about, but it really gets to the core of helping customers be successful with Node-RED and elevating how they use it. It's a slide that I think 5 minutes before I started this, I intended to not show you, but here it is. So this is sort of the high-level concept of the FlowFuse platform. It runs. FlowFuse Cloud is running in our cloud platform. You can sign up to today, and I'll talk a bit more about that towards the end. But you can equally download and run the FlowFuse platform for yourself in a self-hosted environment, whether it's Docker or Kubernetes. So we have customers running on air-gapped networks where it's quite important that they have all of this running within their network, which is fully doable with FlowFuse, and FlowFuse makes some of that easier to manage. And then within the platform, we have hosted Node-RED instances, so you can quickly spin up new Node-REDs within the platform, as well as managing Node-RED running on remote devices outside of the platform. So all of this, I'm going to sort of give you a bit of a walkthrough and a demo of what you can do, which, curiously enough, is my next slide, the demo. So, oh, that's not the next slide. Let's switch to the demo. So I will say, if you do have questions as we go, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section in the Zoom toolbar. We might not notice them if you ask in chat, but yeah, I'm happy to answer your questions as we go. We may save some to the end, but please do get involved. So let's have a look. So here we have a FlowFuse platform. I will say this is one I'm running locally on my laptop just to sort of show the flexibility. But everything I'm doing here, you can do with FlowFuse Cloud. You can do with your own self-hosted instance. But I'm logged in. I've got a team called Webinar Demos, and this is how we start organizing what Node-REDs I've got, what team members I have, who can do what. So I'm going to sort of jump straight into creating a Node-RED instance because that's what we're here for. So I've already created a Node-RED, a FlowFuse application called Webinar Demo. This is a way sort of to pull together when you have multiple Node-REDs and devices, all as one sort of logical set of things. And I'm going to create a new instance. So from here, I've got a few different choices. To begin with, I can choose the blueprint. So blueprints are a bunch of pre-built solutions that FlowFuse provides for lots of common use cases. Blueprints library. So we have blueprints offering lots of common use cases in industrial scenarios, performance overview dashboards, OEE calculator, and on dashboards and terminals. So they are quite industry specific. And our concept here is, these dashboards are going to get you 80% of the way there. They will give you a Node-RED dashboard with all the flows behind it to put the data in the right place to give you the graphs you want. And then you just need to hook that up to your systems and your data. But they give you a good leg up in building something. But for this instance, I'm just going to start with a blank blueprint. And then I'm going to call this instance my demo development instance. I'm going to keep it a small instance, and I'm going to set it to Node-RED 3.1. So within FlowFuse Cloud, we offer choices over what size of Node-RED you want, which will relate to the memory and CPU allocated, as well as what version of Node-RED you've got. So here I've got a Node-RED instance. It's already starting up. And if I go into it, we can start seeing things like access to the Node-RED logs in the dashboard. We've got the audit log, which tells you about interesting things that are happening to that instance. So far, the only interesting thing is it's been created. But that was about to change. And we have other features which we'll come to. So we can access the Node-RED editor. It's a brand new 3.1. As I said, this is Node-RED as you will be familiar with a custom skin just to make it tie into our platform a bit. But there's no features of Node-RED taken away here. Let's have a look. So what we're going to do is create a super quick flow. And I appreciate, this is, so I'm live coding and trying to talk at the same time, which is dangerous. There we are, him variable. And we're going to call this instance name. So for those who haven't seen Node-RED in action before, it's a simple flow that this node is going to inject every, I don't know, let's say every 3 seconds. It's going to trigger this flow. We're going to set a message to the name of this Node-RED instance, and we're going to pass it to debug and as well as the system console. And we're going to hit deploy. And then every 3 seconds, we get demo development, the name of the instance being logged. And if I go back to the Node-RED logs, you can see we're also getting demo development being logged every few seconds down there. As I said, I could spend hours demoing the full capability of Node-RED. If you're interested in finding out more than happy to follow up another day on Node-RED itself. But what I really want to get into now here is what else can we do? What does FlowFuse bring to Node-RED? If we look at the audit log, you can start seeing we've got more events. Nick's logged in, Nick deployed some changes. So in terms of keeping track of who's done what, the platform can give you all that information. So you can have some confidence as to keeping an idea of who is doing what. Snapshots. So snapshots is a feature that allows you to create a snapshot, a backup of your flows, and in fact, not just your flows, but your complete sort of instance configuration with all of its settings. And as you can see here, we've got an auto snapshot. So this is an option I must have enabled somewhere, which I'm going off script, which is always a mistake. But somewhere in here, there must be the auto snapshot option. I'm not going to forgotten where it's hidden, but there is an auto snapshot feature. So every time I hit deploy, it's taken a snapshot of what was there, which is great because often when you're in Node-RED, you make lots of changes, you hit deploy, and then you wish, oh, I wish I could go back to what I had 10 minutes ago. Well, because the platform is taking a new snapshot every time you deploy changes, you can very easily come in here and roll back to a previous snapshot. So that's sort of a built-in backup capability. But snapshots have more than just being used for backups. They're also a key way in how you can start building a deployment pipeline. So how do you manage Node-RED development where you want a development environment and a production environment? So a traditional workflow might be you work in your development environment and then you manually in the editor, you come in here, you hit export, you say all flows, you grab the flow JSON, you copy it, and then you manually paste it. But of course, that's just the flows. So if there are other settings like environment variables, or if you've installed some custom nodes, all those sorts of things, you've got to manually make sure that all goes as well. Well, FlowFuse takes care of all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, let's say, so this is our demo development instance. I'm going to create a demo production instance. Again, small Node-RED 3.1, and let that spin up. And then whilst that's starting up, I'm going to go back to my webinar demo application, and we've got this DevOps pipelines section. So if I go into here, DevOps pipelines allow me to create a workflow that will take a snapshot from one Node-RED instance and push it to another. So I'm creating a demo pipeline. We're going to the first stage is going to be, we'll call it development, and we will associate that with our demo development. And then I can pick what should happen when I run this stage. So we've got some options. If I didn't have the auto snapshotting switched on, then we can tell it to create a new instance snapshot whenever we run the pipeline, or just use the latest snapshot that has been generated, or prompt me to pick one. Well, I'm going to just use the latest instance snapshot. So that is the stage we are starting with. And then for the next stage, again, we're going to deploy to an instance, and we'll call this one production. And then, in fact, because this is going to be the last stage, that's irrelevant. So here we have two Node-RED instances, demo development, demo production. If I open up in a new tab, so this is demo production and the Node-RED logs, and you can see it's not doing anything at the moment. So I'm now going to run this pipeline stage. Just confirm the action. So right now, the platform is grabbing the snapshot from development and it's pushing to production. And if I come in here in the Node-RED log, you can see it's already updating. And then you can see this application is now logging demo production because the flow I had in my development environment has now been pushed to production. So that gives me a much cleaner way to stage Node-RED flows from a development environment to a production environment. Now, one of the features we've added recently is around adding better user control over who's allowed to run that deployment. So I'm just going to spend 2 minutes just talking a bit about the role-based access control we have in the platform. So here we are in my team webinar demos. If I look at the team members, you can see my team has 3 members at the moment. Myself as a team owner, Ben is a team member, and Dave is a dashboard user. So these are 3 of the 4 roles we have in FlowFuse. So as an owner, I can do anything. I can create stuff, I can delete stuff, I'm sort of a mini admin for my team. Ben, as a team member, cannot create and delete stuff, but he has got access to Node-RED and can work on the flows. And then Dave, as a dashboard user, can't access any of the FlowFuse side of it. But if the Node-RED instance was serving up a Node-RED dashboard, then Dave would have access to that dashboard. So there's a lot of flexibility. I will say the 4th role we have is a viewer, which is someone who has read-only access to it all. So they can see the Node-RED editor, they can see the flows, they just can't change anything. So we do have the ability to restrict who has what level of access people have within the team. But sometimes there needs to be a little bit more fine-grained. So a feature we added recently was this protected mode. So I'm in my production instance and I'm going to enable protected mode. And you can see it's now marked as protected. That now means the Node-RED editor is now read-only mode for everyone, or for anyone who has access to the editor is read-only mode. So no one can now go and edit these flows directly. The only way this instance can be updated is by coming into the pipeline and running the pipeline. And at this point, only a team owner can run this pipeline. So that can give you a bit more peace of mind of having a team of developers who can edit in development, but then you've got more control over who can then deploy that to into the production environment. So that's a whirlwind tour of instances that run within the platform. So you can spin up as many as you need, as many as you want, and yeah, whatever your requirements are for how you build Node-RED. The next bit I want to talk a bit about are devices, because this is kind of the other place where Node-RED runs, which is not running within the platform, but actually running on, it might be an Edge PLC, a Raspberry Pi, just somewhere that's not directly inside the platform. So for that, we have a software agent that can be run, our device agent that basically runs on the device and it connects back to the platform and it can be used to remotely manage Node-RED on that device. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of how that works. So first I'm going to add a new device to my team. I'm going to call this development device. And we'll add it to our webinar demo application. So when I add it, it has generated secure credentials and it's given me this command to run on the device. There are also, there's a whole configuration file we do provide, but we also provide this quick start. It's generated a random 3-word registration string. So if I copy that, so here I'm just going to run this in my terminal here and hopefully right. So I've run that command. It's successfully registered that device. And now that this connect code is no longer valid, it's a one use only. And you can see I've got my development device and it's not currently connected because it's not currently running. Running that command gave me the running that command just got the thing registered. I can then rerun the command, but without the connection string. That's now connected to the platform, and it's installing a default version of Node-RED with a set of default flows. And you can see in the background, the platform is updated saying, yep, we've seen that device. So the device calls home every, what's it, 30 seconds by default. So you get a heartbeat ping back to the platform knowing your device is running. So let's go and have a look at what we can do. As with Node-RED instances, we've got an audit log, so you can see changes that are being made to that device. We can get the device logs as well. So yeah, everything I'm seeing in this terminal, I can see via the FlowFuse platform. But I can also access the Node-RED editor. So to do that, I have to put it into developer mode. And then once in developer mode, I can hit device editor. And now this is accessing the editor on that device through the FlowFuse platform. So this device could be on a completely different network, completely out of access to me, but through the platform, I'm able to access the editor. So here we have the default flow that we currently push down to a device that just logs out, what does it, get some environment variables. So it gets the device name and the application name, and then logs it. So if we look at, do we get it on debug? Yeah. So you can see the device, development device, and it's in the webinar demo example. So it's Node-RED. You're familiar with that. Don't need to explain too much about that. We've got some flows to create. And then the same sort of questions apply. Okay, I've got a development device here. I can edit my flows. Now, if I had a dozen other devices, how could I take the flows that are running on here and push them elsewhere? So it's much the same. Pipelines give you that capability as well. So what I'm going to do is, as I just check my script and check the clock to make sure I'm on track, I am, which is all good. So let me have a look. So we're going to add a couple of devices now. We're going to call this production. Yeah, let's just call it production 1. And we'll add it to webinar demo as well. So just as I did before, I've got these other terminals primed for me to run these commands in. Oops. There we go. So that's now registered. And let's get that device connected. So again, that's starting, it's pulling down the default configuration. And as you can see, it's now seen. And in a few seconds, it will say last name status running. But there we are. So that's the second device. And we're going to add a third device. And we'll call this one production 2, because I'm not that imaginative. And again, we just copy that. I'm going to, as if by magic, I have the windows waiting for me. And we run that. So I've now registered our 3 devices, our development device running up the top here, and then our 2 port in use. Okay, this is what comes from not doing a dry run of the demo beforehand. I just need to tell this to run on some random port so we don't get clashes, because I'm running them all for the sake of this demo. If you haven't realized, I'm just running them all as Node-RED's running on my local laptop. So there we go. So they're all now running. Node-RED is running in them all. And just as we could before, so production 1, I can go look at the device logs. And you can see it's logged out. It's production 1, webinar demo. That's all good. But now we want to be able to deploy our flows out to them. So if I go back to my application, go back to my DevOps pipelines, I'm going to create a new pipeline, which is my device pipeline. And as we did before, we're going to start, but this I'm going to start with a device. And this is going to be my dev device. And I pick my development device. And whenever this runs, I'm going to use the active snapshot from that device. Okay, so there we have the development device. Now it's in developer mode at the moment, so we can't run the pipeline, but that's okay. We'll come back to that in a sec. So now we want to take those flows and push them out to my other devices. Now I could, like I did with instance, have a one-to-one mapping in the pipeline, and I could create a pipeline that pushes out to production one. But a feature we've added recently is the device group capability. So what I want to do is create a new device group, and we'll call it production devices. Do I need, oh yeah, I need this one, call that production. So now we're saying, whenever I run this pipeline, I want to push it out to the device group production devices. But I hear you all ask over the Q&A pod rather than chat. Thank you very much. We need to go look at our device groups. So we've created a device group, but it's currently got nothing in. So I've come into my applications into device groups. Here's my production devices. It's not got anything in it at the moment. So we're just going to edit it, and we're going to add our 2 production devices to the device group. Save changes. Done. So now my 2 production devices are in this device group. And if I go back to my pipeline, you can see we've got 2 devices in the group. Neither of them have had anything deployed yet because we've not run the pipeline. But as this says, we're currently in developer mode on that device, so I need to take it out of developer mode. Let me just flip back and do that. Before I do that, I'm going to, well, in fact, what I should do is, because they're all currently running our default set of flows, to actually demonstrate something, I should change this to log something different. What should we log? Should we say set cool. We're just going to message to payload hello world. Let's say it's not much, but it is a change. So at hit deploy, you can now see that that is now logging something more than the default set of flows. If I look at my snapshots, you can see again, just as we do with instances, we've created auto snapshotted when I deployed that change. So that's now something ready for the pipeline to pick up. So I take this out of developer mode, switch back to my pipeline. Now, it's one of those demos where you've just got to watch the terminals, which doesn't always come across super well. But when I run this pipeline stage, oh, no active snapshots. Okay, that was my bad. Let's modify this to use latest. That was a misconfiguration on my part. So now when I run that pipeline stage, you can see instantly both of these devices are updating themselves. They've pulled down that new demo, and you can see it's now running the new flow, which includes the hello world. So this gives me the tools. It's a very contrived example, but that device group could have 100 devices, 50 devices, however many devices need to be running that set of flows. But it also means in my organization, I might have a set of devices that are running certain HMI screens. I've got a set of devices connected to a certain set of devices, a set of devices connected to a different set of hardware, and I can put them all into their own groups and manage in one click the deploy of updates across all of those things.
Hey, Nick,
yeah,
I've got a quick question. I think this is a really good time since you've kind of deployed that on the right-hand side with the 2 Node-RED instances, and we're running those basically on the same computer. So we're not necessarily SSHing anything. You're running these locally to the device. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the sake of this demo, it all just happens to be running locally on my laptop. But yeah, these could be Windows on a login on a remote device. It could be entirely headless. I mean, the commands I've run are a
Right. So the
command you would
question that
want to.
yeah,
Yeah,
the people that are there were some questions that came in that says, how do I run multiple, let's say, devices with FlowFuse on the same device? So, I don't know if you want to kind of give a detailed kind of basically you create two directories and then you have to define the location and then the port number and things like that. So,
yeah.
port recommendation numbers and things like that. But basically, the answer is it's very simple to just essentially create a duplicate of that YAML file and things like that for when you're creating those
Yeah,
devices.
so each instance of the FlowFuse agent will have its own unique configuration file, and you can run as many copies. Well, you can run as many instances of the device agent as you want on one device, uh, depending, yeah, one per node red that you want to manage. There's sort of a
And
one-to-one mapping there.
for my own personal question, that I think was kind of interesting is I see you use, I think it was port 8988 and port 8890.
Uh,
Do you have recommendation ports that you typically like to use? Is that just one of your go-tos or you just pick whatever?
I I have bad luck in picking random numbers that turn out to be in use, and I've
Exactly.
just because, again, this is my local development machine. I have lots of stuff running across different ports doing random stuff. So no, I but yeah, obviously everything defaults to port 1880, as Node-RED users will be very familiar with. But yeah, just as with Node-RED, you can run it on whatever port you want to run. If you want it on port 80 because you're serving a dashboard, and yeah, that's kind of the go-to port for HTTP traffic. So um,
And I mentioned in the comments that I'm gonna do basically a how-to guide to deploy multiple different devices on the same, multiple different agents on the same device, because there might be cases where somebody might want to do that. It might be just
yeah,
useful. So I think we're good there. So I'll let you
cool.
continue on. Thank
Well, so that's kind of the I'm conscious of time. As I'm sure you were, I mean, there's lots of just little pieces of functionality littered throughout FlowFuse that make life easier. Um, we do think a lot about, what are the sort of capabilities that a team of users want to be able to benefit from. So if I just go to my instances, um, let's say I go into my production instance, fire up the editor. Again, super contrived. Let's just grab this node. I'm sure users are familiar with the library feature where you can save useful flows and subflows, whatever it might be, to a library. Well, we have a built-in team library, and I'm going to call this my super useful change node.json. So that's been exported in this instance. If I go look at the library section, it's already there as a reusable asset, to all of the other members in my team. If uh, I'm just thinking, because I set I did set instant protection mode, so I'm in read-only mode, but that won't stop me. If I do an import team library, super useful change node, I can import, but of course, because I've used the DevOps pipeline, I've already got that node in my workspace, but I can import a copy. So in terms of how a team can have reusable assets that are instantly shareable across all their instances, that's all built into the platform. Um, uh, and yeah, just lots of useful features focused on how we can help a team be more productive. Um, I've covered the main speaking points I wanted to cover. We've talked about the blueprints to help you get started. Again, lots of useful stuff there. A lot of these built on the FlowFuse Node-RED dashboard, which is the new generation of Node-RED dashboard. We've done previous webinars on that, and if so, if you're interested in hearing more about Node-RED dashboard, again, go check out our previous webinars because there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in that space. So conscious of time and conscious I wanted, I see there are quite a few questions we want to get into. I'll just say a little bit more about what else we're up to. If I click the right button, done the demo. If you're interested in hearing more about how FlowFuse is really being used, we've got a section on our website for customer stories. Picked out just a few interesting ones here. So This is a building management use case, customer who's been a long-term user of Node-RED, adopting FlowFuse to help them manage. They're a small company. They have been Node-RED has empowered them to be far more productive than their small team would otherwise suggest, and they're able to create very bespoke building management solutions to their customers, all built on top of Node-RED. So building management, Node-RED, tick. This is a really interesting case of a manufacturer, Abrasive Technologies, who do really interesting sort of precise precision manufacturing. And they've created Node-RED dashboards for monitoring the work they do. I forget the exact. One of my colleagues explained the full details of this screenshot to me last week. I believe so. This is a live camera feed of their machining process, and this overlay is dynamically generated, and it can detect based on this scale running down whether it's within the tolerance of what their manufacturing process requires. But it's not just a dashboard visualizing it. There's a whole bunch of controls to help drive the tooling as well. So, they've built a whole process around their manufacturing capabilities using Node-RED. And this is an interesting one around water irrigation and water management, helping, well, as it says here, optimize delivery of 185,000 acre-feet of water annually, using FlowFuse to manage Node-RED at remote edge locations across a wide geographic area. But again, some really interesting stories. There's a lot of detail behind all of these. If you want to find out more, do go check out the customer stories section of our site. And then something else we've announced recently. So I talked a bit about how we have FlowFuse Cloud, which is our hosted platform that you can sign up to today. We also have self-hosted FlowFuse, where you can download it and run it for yourself in your own environment. Something we launched last week was FlowFuse Dedicated. So this is kind of the hybrid of the two, where we will host and manage FlowFuse for you in a dedicated platform for just you, which gives you a bit more flexibility than the FlowFuse Cloud. So FlowFuse Cloud is hosted in one AWS region. So certainly some of our customers have particular requirements about where physically in the world their data is located, but also customers who want to have some of that peace of mind in being in a single tenant platform. So FlowFuse Dedicated is launched last week. Details are on our website and on the blog if you want to find out more, if that's of interest to you. So with that, with about 15 minutes left to run, I thought we've got a nice number of questions there, which I'm sure will keep us busy. So yeah, please do keep asking questions in the Q&A section as we go. But Gray, are there any of those questions that have
Yes. I try to answer
out?
some of those questions as I went along, just to make sure that I could handle as much as we could. So one of the first questions is, does the device management also work in the unlicensed open source version of FlowFuse? Which limitations does the open source version have? And I think, if I understand correctly, this was kind of like how the open source, what's the number of agents and the things like that, if you want to kind of cover that.
Yeah, so the full details are on the website about what capabilities are where, but a lot of the core capability around managing the devices remotely is in the open source version. The remote device editing is not part of the open source version. That one I do know off the top of my head, but yeah, I think have a look at the website, which does sort of break down what is in the core open source and what is in the platform. And yeah, please do follow up with us if you have any questions about that.
Awesome. And one of the next questions we have is a multi-user access. I know we talked at Hanover last week about kind of like the iterative processes and things like that. And I don't know if you want to kind of talk to it a little bit, because I know I saw it as really neat as far as kind of those processes. It's going to come along. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, let me just have yeah, okay. I don't have so we are actively working on improving the concurrent user experience within Node-RED. So this is something you'll see steps forward in Node-RED 4.0, which is the betas are already out. And as you can tell, I'm trying to type and navigate whilst talking coherently. But yeah, so Node-RED 4.0 is bringing improvements to this, and we've got more to come. So with Node-RED 4.0, with what we're calling the multiplayer mode enabled. So, and to be clear, so this is not FlowFuse specific. This is base Node-RED. When you have the new multiplayer feature enabled, then whenever you've got the editor open, it shows you who else has the editor open. It shows you what tab they're on, if they're editing a node, what node they're on. It doesn't show you what changes they've made in real time. That's where we're headed, but that's going to take a bit more development work to get to. But certainly for Node-RED 4.0, we're working well. This is a change request we will get merged in the next day, and it will be in the next beta refresh later this week of Node-RED 4. And there's a bunch of other follow-on work we'll be doing to improve that. So yeah, watch this space and get involved in the community with feedback on this if it's of interest to you.
And if you want to test this out, this is something that we have available on the FlowFuse platform, correct? So we have the latest release. So if you want to see some of these features come along, if you have FlowFuse, you can kind of spin one of these up real easily and start kind of testing around and seeing the new changes.
Absolutely. For anyone who jumps on there in the next 10 minutes, this particular piece isn't there yet because this piece has not yet been released. But there's the current Node-RED 4 beta release does have better. It tells you in the header who's got the editor open. It doesn't tell you where. This is the piece that will tell you where they are in the editor that will come in the next beta release.
So the next question we have is, can the pipeline modify things like credentials, configurations, environmental variables used by the flows before it deploys in the next stage, or do we need to make sure our flows are 100% portable before setting those up the pipeline? And I pretty the answer, but I figured it's better to answer that in via live.
Yeah, so you can certainly set up environment variables unique to each instance. So here we have the demo production instance we had. So I can add an environment variable in that is just in this instance, and the pipeline won't overwrite it. So and the reason for that will then be when you have your pipeline, you can have your development version with its set of environment variables and production with its own set of environment variables. So your development environment might need to connect to development API using development credentials, whereas production should use real credentials. So yeah, that's all managed as part of the environment variables on the individual instances. So hopefully
yeah, and that's why you would have something like a development plus staging. So therefore you can see and testing kind of an example of like, are those environment variables, I always want to put an AL at the end of that, are functioning appropriately as you kind of roll out to production. So, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. During the development, is it going to go copy only flows.json or flows credentials.json, other files? So what files are essentially, I guess, snapshot and required modules?
So yeah, we don't necessarily think of them in terms of files, but the snapshot contains your flows and credentials. It also contains your what extra npm modules are needed. So again, that's all things we can manage in the platform. If I go to the settings of an instance, we have palette. Here you can see installed modules, no modules installed because I haven't installed any extra. So for those familiar with Node-RED, if I my demo development, so if I do manage palette and come and install FlowFuse dashboard, for example. So the developer experience you expect, you can install them here. There we are. So they're now in my palette and I can start using them. If I come back in here and if I just reload, you can now see installed modules includes Node-RED dashboard. So the platform knows what you've got installed. It actually lets you from here centrally manage if you needed to do an upgrade or change it or remove it from the configuration. That can all be done from the platform. And then the snapshot includes that information. So if I were to come back to my here and I run this pipeline again, and then ooh, there we are. So I am in read-only mode. Have I clicked? I may have clicked too quickly. Let's have a look. Settings, palette. Oh, that didn't copy over. I think I clicked around too quickly, trying to. I think I've missed a step there somewhere. But yeah, it does this. Oh, it's. I tell you why, I didn't take a snapshot. So let's create a snapshot. So the auto snapshotting only happens when you deploy flows. So let's create that snapshot. Open our demo pipeline, run the pipeline. And now it's going to take ever so slightly longer because, yeah, you can see importing. It's realized it's got to actually install some stuff now as well. So anyway, let's, yes. Yeah, so there you go. Dashboard 2, all those nodes are installed. So yeah, the palette gets copied over as well.
So the next question is on the Node-RED dashboards on the device agents, and what is the kind of the security and support there in the future, kind of looking, support there for HTTP?
Yeah, can you run HTTP? That's a super good question. I can't quite join the dots in my head on how you do that quickly and easily, but Felix, I'll make a note of that and we can follow up afterwards. But yeah, I think yeah, I'll need to follow up with you on that one.
Sounds good. All right. So I think this is one of the questions, if I understand and articulate correctly, offline development, so local development, something that I think we've had a few people ask. It is in our backlog, I believe, as far as if we have a device that is remote and can we access it locally?
So we do have some options around this. It's an area of interest, certainly from some of our customers. We do have the ability to have well, some of our users are on air-gapped networks and have constraints over what public services they're able to access. So we do have modes where the device agent can be pointed at a local NPM cache to be able to pull things from. We don't have a mode where you can have one device agent act as sort of the donor for the other instances. That's an interesting scenario, not one we've explored, but yeah, we do have a variety, a couple of different options based on real customer demand and customer use cases around helping how you can support an offline install of this stuff. But again, conscious of time, yeah, it gets quite deep in the weeds of technical detail. But if that's something you're interested in, more than happy to follow up another time with you on it.
Perfect. And so right now, GitHub FlowFuse works with GitHub projects that we use in Node-RED. How does FlowFuse work?
So at the moment, we don't have Git integration in FlowFuse. So the Node-RED projects feature you may be familiar with isn't something that we leverage in FlowFuse. Basically, because FlowFuse takes ownership of the overall storage of the Node-RED instances and the like. And yeah, so at the moment, the two don't play together. We are looking at what makes sense in terms of Git integration with the FlowFuse platform, but yeah, we don't have an answer to that right now.
Sorry, I'm answering a question in text
That's right.
since sent that real quick.
Okay, so well, I can jump in. I can see a couple of questions related to the device, how the devices communicate back with the FlowFuse platform. So actually, Ivan's asked, in my demo, I'm using localhost effectively because I'm running locally. What if the device is in a factory? So the device, and Mohammed's also asked, what's the channel of the device agent to communicate with FlowFuse backend? Is it MQTT, HTTPS? and uh, related questions around security certificates. So the device agent connects out to the platform rather than the platform having to connect down. So in that factory scenario, it would be true to say the devices need to have access to the FlowFuse platform at a networking level. Now, for some of our customers, they have no problem opening up a channel from their internal network, allowing outbound traffic to FlowFuse Cloud. For other customers, that's why they choose to self-host so that they can trust the endpoints entirely. So that's how it works with FlowFuse Cloud. The device connects back to the platform rather than us having to connect in. In terms of how they connect back, we support both HTTP and MQTT. Not all the device features I've shown are available over HTTP. So the device editor and the like do require MQTT connectivity back to our platform. Yeah, that's that side of it. Security certificates, we don't manage the certificates ourselves. That is an area I know we want to look at, but at the moment we use sort of standard certificates on both ends to hold these things together. And then yeah,
there was a question that I just saw answered with, it was on multi user dashboards, and I had just sent the link to the blog. I don't know if you want to talk on that in just a few seconds. Just multi-tenant. So basically, I'll let you explain.
Yeah, for sure. So dashboard 2.0, the sort of successor to Node-RED dashboard that we've been working on, we do have support for multi-user dashboards in that. At the moment, that is a feature that is best leveraged with the FlowFuse platform, but we are seeing more contributions from the community around expanding that out to be a more general purpose. So yeah, multi-user dashboards are there, and I know Joe covered some of that in a previous webinar. So yeah, yeah.
We're getting close on time. Can MQTT traffic be encrypted to the cloud? If you're leveraging the MQTT, let's say, connector, yes, it can be encrypted. If you're leveraging the connection between a device and the FlowFuse cloud, it's encrypted inherently itself as far as the communication.
It all flows over a TLS WebSocket, secure WebSocket connection. So that should address those concerns.
So,
and I will add, yes, we have an MQTT broker at the core of our platform, but it isn't a general purpose broker in the sense that your applications can't just arbitrarily connect to it. So there is a lot of access control and monitoring going on in terms of who connects and how they connect and what they're allowed to publish and subscribe to going on.
So I got a good one. Easiest way to install custom nodes, FlowFuse deploy Node-RED instances without publishing to NPM. So basically, that's the solution for your own custom nodes is to publish to your own private NPM server, unless there's another way of approaching those. Is that correct, Nick?
Essentially, yes. It's yes, that's kind of it. I'm just looking at showing you how we've got in the palette section. We do allow you to customize the npm-rc file. So if you have a private npm repository hosting your nodes, then you can set up your npm configuration so that the instances know to pull from your npm repository rather than the public one if needed. So we have that capability. It's admittedly, I do acknowledge, yes, the capability is there. Setting up a private npm repository and setting up all this configuration isn't as straightforward as just being able to drop some files on the file system, but it is certainly one of the challenges of how you do this at scale in the cloud. And unfortunately, sort of dropping files onto the file system isn't a scalable solution for us.
So I think we're at time, and I really like to keep this about an hour. I just dropped some in the chat. We've got a Discord. I'll be live there afterwards as far as being able to answer any additional questions that we didn't quite get to. Feel like we did a pretty good job covering the ones. I know we had some come in the last minute for the Q&A portion, but Nick, I think you had maybe a slide that you just wanted to follow up with, maybe briefly go over them as far. And
Yeah, really. I will just because I do want to just touch on it. I know at time for Trent, his question around as a service provider providing FlowFuse solutions to multi-tenants, is the support in one account, or would the provider have to have separate subscriptions to manage each tenant? Um, so uh, it's kind of up to you how you if you're doing a self-hosted instance of the platform, then you could create a isolated team for each of your tenants. So there is no uh, there is no sharing between teams. The team is kind of the tenancy artifact. So yeah, you could have just as with FlowFuse Cloud, each user gets their own team on the FlowFuse Cloud, and that is kind of that's the model we have. So, but if you want to follow up, more than happy to another time. Yeah, so it's called beholden me to say, big thank you for everyone who's joined and for all the great questions. I hope we've managed to uh, answer some of them and raise your interest in what we're doing here at FlowFuse. If you want to find out more, so FlowFuse Cloud, if you haven't already, you can sign up and get a 2-week free trial today. We do have obviously this FlowFuse self-hosted where you can download it and run it locally yourself, or get a trial license to try out the enterprise features. Or if you want to have a bit more of a one-to-one follow-up, you can book a demo with us to get a bit more of a bespoke walkthrough of our platform and discussion based on your real use case and needs. So yeah, please do reach out. And of course, I'm sure if you're in the Node community, you know how to get hold of me. Always happy to talk through this stuff. And with
all
that,
right.
I will say thank you. And as I was reminded, when you drop out of the webinar, you will be prompted with a questionnaire. We value your feedback. It helps us make sure these webinars are interesting and useful. So if you can just give us a couple minutes extra of your time once you log out of the Zoom, we would really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and look forward to the next one like this. So, everyone, have a good day, and talk to you soon.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.